I was 3 months old, they said, when I lost her. Father lived to be very old. My mother was Ella Getter, and my stepmother was Lucy Evans. My father's name was Cy Hubbard. My parents married after the war. I remember Grandma Harriet Hubbard. She said she was sold. She was a cook, and she raised my papa up with white folks. Her children were sold with her. Papa was sold too at the same time. Papa fired a steam gin. They ground corn and gin cotton. I stayed with Sam Hall's family. She was good to me. I had a small bed by the fireplace. She kept me with two of her own children. Some of the girls and boys I was raised up with live at Sanatobia now and have fine homes. When we'd be playing, they would take all the boys from me. Miss Fanny would say, "Poor Nancy, she ain't got no toys." Then they would put them on the floor and we would all play. Grandma lived with Papa. She was part Indian. As long as Papa lived, he sharecropped in gin. We worked as long as he was able to hit a lick. He died 4 miles east out from Sanatobia on Mr. Hayshaw's place. What I told you is what I know. He said he was sold that one time. Hubbards had plenty to eat and wear. He was a boy, and they didn't want to stunt the children. Papa was a water boy and filled the holes for chopping hands. He carried a file along with them, hoeing, and would sharpen their hoes and fetch some water in their jugs. Aunt Sally, his sister, took care of the children. Papa went to war. He could blow his bugle and give all the war signals. He got the military training. Him and his friend, Charlie Grimm, used to step around and show us how they had to march to orders. His bugle had 4 joints. I don't know what went with it. From what they said, they didn't like the war and was so glad to get home. Aunt Jane Peterson, old friend of mine, come to visit me nearly every year after she got so old. She told me things took place in slavery times. She was in Virginia till after freedom. She had 2 girls and a boy with a white daddy. She told me all about how that come. She said no chance to run off or ever get off. You had to stay and take what come. She never got to marry till after freedom. Then she had 3 more black children by her husband. She said she was the cook. Old master say, "Jane, go to the lot and get the eggs." She was scared to go and scared not to go. He beat her out there, put her head between the slip gap where they let the hogs into the pasture from the lot down back on the barn. She say, "Old Mrs. Whitney, this ain't right." He laughed, said she bore 3 children in a room in the same house his family lived in. She lived in the same house. She had a room so as she could build fires and cook breakfast by 4 o'clock sometimes, she said. She was so glad freedom come on, and soon as she heard it, she took her children and was gone, she said. She had no use for him. She was scared to death of him. She learned to pray and prayed for freedom. She died in Coldwater, Mississippi. She was so glad freedom come on before her children come on old enough to sell. Part white children sold for more than Black children. They used them for house girls. Times are strange. Hard too. But the way I've heard they had to work and do and go, I hardly ever do grumble. I've heard so much. I got children. I do the best I can by them. That is all I can do or say.